Hello, everybody. This is Bob Mackey from OneUp.com, and this is Retronauts Lunch Break, and I'm here with...
Jeremy Parish!
And this week we're checking out Master System games, and today's first game is Ghost House.
And Scott Sharkey isn't among us today, but he kind of is, because the character in this game, I don't know, he's always made me think of Sharky.
I'm totally rushing Ghost House this semester, bro.
There
we go.
Delta Krappa? I don't know.
So can we explain what the hell Ghost House is? I've never played it except for yesterday when I had to look it up.
Well, first of all, why don't I switch accounts on my Twitter app to the Retronauts account so that people can ask us questions or make comments about this game as we play. Just hit us up on Twitter at Retronauts, and we'll try to satisfy your interests and desires, from a video game information perspective.
I don't think anyone's going to criticize me if I play Ghost House poorly.
Matthew J. wants to know, does Ghost Dad live in the ghost house?
That is a great question.
Rudy! The first boss is Rudy.
You have to find a Bill Cosby sweater, and that summons Ghost Dad.
That's how you kill Jason, too. You have to bring Bill Cosby's sweater to his mask.
Okay, so we're going to spend this week, which unfortunately is a truncated week because of... Martin Luther King's birthday yesterday. Not that we're saying that was unfortunate, but just we weren't at work yesterday. We're going to be spending this week looking at Sega Master System games. And we're going to actually, I think, make several, if this is a long-term project, do several weeks of Master System games because it's having its 25th anniversary. It launched middle of 1986 in America, but didn't really, I don't think, hit broad distribution until 1987. And it's a system that kind of goes underappreciated, and
people were worried that we were just going to bash the thing.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think Sega fans just have a chip on their shoulder sometimes.
The highlights are relatively few, but it's still a pretty interesting system.
We're not going to ask Chris Kohler to come on this podcast or on this show if that's what you're worried about, because that man cannot say a good thing about Sega to save his life. That man, he's like one of those Japanese soldiers who was downed on an island for 50 years, and he doesn't realize that World War II is over. Like, the 16-bit console wars are still burning brightly in his mind. But no, this is not the best game right here. Like, Ghost House is not an amazing game, but I selected it to start with because I think it's an interesting little slice of Master System history, which is the My cards, or the Master cards, or whatever you call them. Bob, are you familiar with those?
Yeah, was that the original, the Mark I version of the game?
Okay.
Version of the system? I know it's complicated.
Well, no, okay. So, yeah, here's the thing about the Master System, is that its history is such that it was originally launched, well, not the Master System itself, but Sega's first console was the SG, Sega Game 1000, which was launched on the exact same day in Japan as the Famicom from Nintendo, June 15th, 1983, I think, or July 15th. So yeah, it kind of, and also like the same week, the MSX computer made its debut apparently. So all of a sudden you had like these three really great 8-bit gaming systems. The NES was definitely the most advanced. The MSX was more of a computer, and this SG-1000 was kind of neither of the above. It had, like flip screen scrolling and that sort of thing.
Oh, right, yeah.
It just wasn't as powerful as the NES. It was more like the MSX, but didn't have the computer functionality to it. And so then Sega later came out with a version 2 of it, which was just a redesigned case. And then they came out with the Mark III, which was called the Master System in Japan. And the Master System was basically the SG-1000, but with a lot more hardware oomph to it. It had better sound, better graphics, better color palette, etc., etc.
Ooh, something happened. Seizure time!
I don't know what happened, but Pikachu is making me die.
Everybody flop around. Oh, it's... okay.
So, anyway... the Master System was backward compatible with SG-1000 games, and those came in the form of little cards that you could plug into a slot on the front of the Master System, whereas Master System games themselves came on cartridges. And the My cards, as they were called, were lower capacity, and generally the games weren't as good or in-depth because, they were for a more primitive system. And this is one of those games. This Ghost House, and there were a few other kind of notable ones, Transbot, and... even Zillion originally came out as an SG-1000 My Card kind of game. Although, they're not backward compatible with the SG-1000 as far as I know. Anyway, so that's kind of the weird, complicated history of this, and that's why Ghost House seems a little bit primitive. It's kind of got that, like, 1980s, first half of the 80s arcade style. What have you done, Bob?
It reminds me of Goonies 2, but much poorly...
It's more like Goonies 1, actually.
Yeah, you're right.
Have you played Goonies 1?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
It's totally arcadey in that sense.
Yeah, it's very much. Like, you have one level, and you can roam freely within that level. You know, in 1983, this game would have been kind of awesome. In 1987, maybe not so much.
Confusing as hell, because I have no idea where I am or what my goal is, or there's no map.
So you're punching dudes.
Pretty much. I
believe you're supposed to find a vampire who's in a coffin and then kill the vampire. But the problem with the vampires is that they're much better at killing you than you are killing them.
Yeah, he's very Alex Kidd-like. He's got the big fist in the elf ears. So I don't know, like, if the same people worked on those games. Probably. They're a big fan of the big fist.
I think most games for Sega systems for the longest time were developed in-house at Sega. In fact, the only third-party games that I can think of for Master System were Rygar and Ninja Gaiden. Like, Tecmo developed 2 third-party games for Master System, but everything else was, I believe, developed in-house at Sega. So that was one of their ways of getting around Nintendo's stipulations about licensing and putting stuff on other consoles. Publishers would give them the rights to the game, and Sega would reprogram them, so you could get games like Ys and R-Type and so forth.
Also, in this game, if you climb a ladder, you can pretend you're Spock from Star Trek.
This is the Zachary Quinto Spock, though, not the Leonard Nimoy version.
Yeah, he's much younger and
and angrier. Jorge Torres wants to know, would you be sad if you received this game for Christmas as a child?
If I was ignorant, no. If I had no idea what a good video game was, probably not. Because, I mean, this isn't terrible, I should say. It's just kind of mediocre and... I don't know. I would say it was on par with a lot of games of, like, 86.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I was a child, this was actually kind of a cool game. Like, if I had gotten this for Christmas 1985 or 86, I'd be like, oh my god, I got a video game. That's so awesome. And I would have played the hell out of this. And then when people got onto a podcast or a video stream and talked trash about it, I would be so angry at them. So angry. I would hate myself right now. Fred McMack wants to know, what is that little dude supposed to be? He looks like an Elvis elf.
The cover art does not really let us in on that that mystery. Like, who is this guy?
I still think it's Sharky cosplaying as Spock.
I don't see Sharky's ears as being that big, though.
You haven't really paid attention to Sharky's ears. He keeps his hair shaggy for a reason.
Okay. Is he hiding his Hylian origins?
No, I don't know. It's really weird. Like, I have a memory of this character looking a lot like Sharky, but now that I see him on the screen, I'm like, what was I thinking? And he even thought the joke was funny. But yeah, I think there's the coffin with the vampire inside.
There's a bat that comes out of here.
Yeah,
and,
that's a vampire, right?
Oh, and it just
they
immediately
turn into bats.
knocked me over. Are we going to check out Transbot? I have that.
We could. Brian Kent says, Ghost House reminds me of Drax Night Out. Any unnecessary athletic shoe tie-ins? I don't believe Sega was in a position to do tie-ins with anyone.
We did not have shoe pump technology at the time, which has only gotten better over the years.
Actually, I say that, but no, the game that I just mentioned a little while ago, Zillion, was based on like a laser tag ripoff. It was a tie-in that had an anime connection and a toy and so forth. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and jump over to Transbot?
Okay.
We're halfway through.
Time to tear back the curtain and show you the horrors.
Yes, that's true. That's right, emulation.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is not available on on Virtual Console, so we had to do the evil thing. Wow, what are all those things on your desktop, Bob?
Those are icons.
World of Goo, did you steal that too?
No, that was paid for.
Oh,
in cash, American.
We don't necessarily advocate emulation, but sometimes it's a necessary evil so that we can bring you information.
And Transbot.
Now, Transbot, I think, is actually a genuinely not good game.
Let's
it's
start
a very super mediocre shooter. Whereas Ghost House, it's serviceable. It does the trick.
Still,
but again, bear in mind that these games exist in like 32K of RAM or something. It's just ridiculous. They're very, very tiny.
Still parallax scrolling,
Why aren't you transforming, Transbot?
I can't. I only have 2 buttons. One does nothing.
Now, when I think of Transbot, I always think of the transvestite robot from Futurama.
Oh.
But unfortunately, that robot is nowhere to be seen. Oh, okay, so it's kind of like Spy Hunter. You gotta shoot that dude down there. Oh, you missed your opportunity.
This game
you cannot transform.
Come on. So obviously, this is. Would you have a good comment or?
No, I'm just laughing because
Oh, here we go.
because
All
you're
right.
frustrated and angry.
Transbot power. Nothing's happening. I'm learning the
You have
alphabet.
to, yeah, you have to. I think you have to hit
Oh,
a button to stop.
one of
It's
my
been a
two
while since I
buttons.
played this.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see. Dan Clark says Master System ports of California Games and Bubble Bobble are the least best. Are at the very least. Okay, the way he phrased this is weird. Are at the very least the best 8-bit versions, maybe the best overall. That's fighting words, saying that any version of Bubble Bobble is better than the NES
I got
version.
the C power. Sorry, go for it.
No, I'm just saying that's a strong, bold statement to make.
It is pretty strong. I've
C
never
is
played
what,
them.
like cleansing the screen?
It's
Man.
claw. You see how his hand out like that?
I see.
At least they don't make me start over from the beginning.
Adrian Sandoval says, the Ghost House manual says, quote, no foolin'. You're Mick, the normal-looking guy in the
That's
blue
racist.
shirt.
Keep
So,
going.
yeah, it's a ghost house in Ireland. Are you shooting joints? Those are joints, aren't they? Look at that. Those are little... You're shooting little
This is a...
marijuana cigarettes. That's crazy.
These are jazz cigarettes, and I don't condone that behavior.
And I think that's Samus as a morph ball flying at you.
I get A power, which stands for nothing. Nothing's happening.
It means that you are A plus awesome.
Coolness.
Okay, we were kind of bagging on this game because it's not ambitious or really that interesting. But keep in mind, this is like a first-generation Master System title running with very little memory on a tiny little card that was designed to be cheap and low capacity, and yet it's still managing to produce parallax scrolling.
Are we pre-Gradius or Gradius or whatever you want to call
No,
it?
this is after Gradius.
F.
But
For fugly robot.
But I mean, visually, this still outpaces anything the NES was doing at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you didn't see parallax scrolling in your games until, what, like Ninja Gaiden or something like that? Or maybe Castlevania 3? I guess 1989 was when that kind of visual chicanery started showing up, Mega Man 3.
A certain local chain of department stores had the Master System on display around me, and it was always visually more impressive than the NES. They always
Bob,
have Ghostbusters.
you
Oh, no.
died.
We can maybe show off a few more of the transforming,
Sure, why not?
if I can get the alphabet right.
But yeah, the parallax scrolling didn't show up. Parallax scrolling, for those of us who are at home playing along and don't know stupid video game technical terms, is when different layers scroll at different speeds. So you see how the foreground is moving more quickly than the background to give the illusion of depth. That's parallax scrolling. And that's something that you didn't really see in NES games until the MMC3 chip came along, which was, like I said, 1989 or so. It required a special processor, like on the cartridge itself, for the NES to be able to do that. But here is a Sega Master System My Card that was designed to be cheap, inexpensive, low capacity, and it's just doing this right out of the box. So the Master System was a more powerful system than the NES. Whatever they did to the SG-1000 to upgrade it into the Mark III Master System was pretty good.
Did any Famicom games have scrolling right off the bat?
Scrolling or parallax scrolling?
Just scrolling in general. I'm trying to think because
Nothing
you said
comes to mind because everything that was on the NES, the Famicom, in the first few years were all those like single-screen arcade-style games, you
right.
know? Baseball or pinball.
Did scrolling require anything
Mario
special,
Brothers.
or was it just like a technology eventually developed?
I believe so. I believe that there was a mapper chip, not one of the MMC chips, but there was a mapper that eventually came along that allowed scrolling.
Okay.
So that was something that you didn't really see in any game. Console game from this time. The ability to move smoothly across screens was just, it wasn't done. But by the time Super Mario Brothers came out, that was in the bag. Let's go back to Twitter. Oh, my phone went to sleep. Wake up! Wake up!
Transbot is not as hard as I
Matt
thought it would
Morgan
be.
salutes us for playing Ghost House. Well, we salute you right back, sir.
We tried.
Oh, Fred McMack says the guy from Ghost House looks like Vex from the Xbox game. That's points for obscurity, sir.
Yikes.
But if someone names drops Zapper One Wicked Cricket, then I will be impressed.
I'm more of a, I don't know, who was the girl with the giant hammer that was going to be voiced by Gwen Stefani but never happened?
Akane Tendo?
No.
Oh. I know what you're talking. Malice?
Really horribly ugly.
Yeah.
Sorry, Malice fans. I'm throwing the hammer down.
I still can't get over the fact that they're shooting joints at you.
Yeah.
And not only that, but they're shooting them with like the lit end away from you. It's trying to like fly into your robot's mouth
trying
and
to
make
impair.
you high.
Yeah, don't Transbot.
There's a lesson here, folks.
Don't Transbot and smoke, kids.
Dustin Vogler wants to know, was Transbot good at the time it was released? And I don't know if it was good per se, but it was not unimpressive. Like we said, the visuals are really colorful. There's some special effects going on that you wouldn't have seen on another home console at the time.
And your ship has 6 forms, so that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, compare this to stuff that you were seeing at the time on Famicom and NES. Sure, it's not as good as Gradius, but it's faster. Yeah, stuff like, Transformers, games like that were so bad they didn't even come to America.
No, they're firing smiley faces at me.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Happy times. So this is like a hippie marijuana 420 kind of video game.
Yeah, it's like kind of approaching weird. Fantasy Zone.
I had never really paid attention to that, but yeah, I guess we can see where Fantasy Zone comes from. It's when your robot gets hit with one of the joints. Then it starts hallucinating. Twink Slithersby says, you guys need to quit lying about what game you're going to play next episode.
What? We didn't lie.
Starting to develop trust issues. But we said we were going to play Ghost House today, and then we did, and then we also played another game.
Yeah, check the webpage, Twink. That's your real name.
So I'm not really sure where the lies are coming from.
Yeah, we've been upfront and honest about our Master System play. But Friday's going to be Zelda Link to the Past again. We should say that.
Brian Jackson says, Transbot or the Guardian Legend for transforming ships gameplay. I don't think that's fair. The Guardian Legend was so much more of a game than this. It came a lot later and was so much more ambitious. I think a better comparison would be this or Transformers Convoy no Nazo for Famicom.
Oh man, I'm glad we're not playing that.
Or Macross for Famicom. Those games were crap.
What about that?
Definitely Transbot.
What about that GBA game that wanted to be the Guardian Legend sequel but never really did it right?
Oh, Sigma Star Saga?
Yeah, it's like a ship game with random battles. Yeah.
It almost worked, but it didn't quite.
Yeah,
toward the end of the game, there were these random battles you would get into, and you were stuck in a random ship, and you'd be stuck in like a cargo ship that was just huge, and there was no way to avoid damage. Sometimes you couldn't even get through the levels because the level geometry would destroy your ship.
I really wanted someone to fix that game.
Yeah, it had so much potential.
It could work.
It was a little too I don't know.
Too many ideas without really thinking of how they would work together?
Not even that, but I mean, like, the story was a little too, I'm like an angsty dude.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, now that I think back on it, now that I'm watching Farscape, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Farscape, like, human out of his element.
How many Muppets?
Sexy
Muppets.
There were some, like, kind of insectile aliens. So, yeah, the Farscape analogy is kind of working up. But the character never had a chance to develop the charisma that eventually John Crichton develops.
Damn. Like I say, F-Bot is not my favorite.
F-Bot, yeah.
It's an F.
F that F-Bot. Matthew J. says, what are some entries in great series you consider terrible but are still required playing for any reason, like plot or character development?
Oh.
Mega Man 5? No, wait, I like Mega Man 5.
What, games that are terrible that have good plot and character development?
Well, they're essential links in a series.
Oh,
you think
in a series,
they're wretched,
okay.
But they haven't been, like, retconned yet, so they fit in there somewhere. I guess, do you consider Skyward Sword that way, Bob?
I choose to not acknowledge it in any way.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's harsh.
I'm sorry, fans. I like Zelda, I just didn't like that one.
All right, so Fabian says, I recall F-16 fighting Falcon for the Mega Card. Right on. I don't know that game.
Yeah, I don't know.
I bet it was good, though. Anyway, the Master System had some really good games, and like I said, we're trying to give it its fair shake this year, and even though this is not an amazing game, Ghost House was not an amazing game, like, I think if you look at these games in the context of when they were released, and just exactly what they were on a technical level, it's kind of hard not to look back and be a little bit impressed. And this was kind of Sega in its young days. It hadn't become the development powerhouse that everyone thinks of it as. The golden age of the 16-bit era.
Was this pre-Yu Suzuki getting to make like a Space Harrier and whatnot?
This was actually right around the time that Space Harrier and Outrun and Afterburner were in the arcades.
Really,
but,
when they
like that was a whole different level of hardware.
Yeah, but
like
there was
that
Afterburner.
hardware wouldn't show up in home systems for another 3 years.
Does the Master System have Afterburner? I thought it did.
It does, but it's crappy.
Okay.
Like does it have Afterburner? It definitely has Space Harrier.
I've seen Afterburner for it, I think. And I'm sure 9 people will tweet in at us, of course, or no.
Right. But anyway, we don't need to go through the entire history of Sega today. We'll be talking more about the Master System tomorrow and throughout the year if you people keep watching us, and tell your friends about how awesome Retronauts Lunch Break is, and we can justify spending half an hour a day doing this.
Hooray. And
But this is our allocated time for today.
Yes.
We're going to end on this amazing title screen. Look
Yes.
at those colors.
and tune in tomorrow for Wonder Boy, which you might
Yes.
know as Adventure Island.
The original Wonder Boy.
Yep.
You would know that game as many things, depending.
True.
Anyway, thanks
many
again
forms.
for watching Retronauts Lunch Break, and we'll be back tomorrow with more video games that you can watch. And, of course, you can check us out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/The One Up Network. So until then, and, oneup.com itself.
Yes.
We make ourselves nothing if not accessible. So we shall see you tomorrow.
Later.